joining me now as we approach 2 o'clock, a dear friend of Eric Carr's, Mr. Eddie Trunk. Hi, Eddie.
Hi, Cheryl. This is quite a sad moment to be brought together like this and to have to do this. Cheryl and I were just talking during that song, and it certainly doesn't, it doesn't even seem right talking about him in the past tense, because it's still, all of this just still hasn't hit me yet. And hearing the music and hearing the excerpts from the interview, I have some tape of the very first time Eric came to DHA when he was on a show with me up here, and it just seems like it was just yesterday that we were talking. And there's a few things that I wanted to come up here and say about all this, because, you know, Eric was the kind of guy, first of all, I mean, he was a guy that went from being a gas range repairman to overnight becoming a superstar in one of the biggest bands in the world. And somebody, I have never seen or known of anybody who handled a transition like that, like he did. He was the kind of guy that was just, it was just unbelievable that he was so down to earth. I've never met anybody so down to earth and real as that guy was.
I was just going to say, when you talked to Eric Carr, it was more like talking to a gas range repairman than a superstar.
He still was a gas range repairman in the way he conducted himself. I mean, not to name drop here, but I've got tons of friends that are, you know, in popular rock bands that I've hung out with, and a lot of times they'd say, well, I can't go to the mall or I can't go to that show unless you can sneak me in backstage. But there were many times where Eric and I would hang out or call each other and, oh, sure, I'll go to the mall, let's go, you know,
right.
Or I'll go to that show, I'd love to go see that.
Come into the Ritz right through the front door with everybody
else. Hang out at the bar with everyone. And you know, here's a guy, it wasn't like he was in an up-and-coming band, he was in KISS. I mean, he handled it amazingly well, and he just, that's why I think, you know, one of the big reasons, aside from his obvious talent and everything, that he'll be missed, is he was just really a great person and a very down-to-earth person who just was always there for people. The first time, I'll never forget the first time I met him, being the KISS fanatic that I am, I went up to, I guess it was on the Lick It Up tour, I went up to Massachusetts with a bunch of friends of mine, and we tried to find the same hotel that they were staying in. We stayed in the same hotel, and we kept our door open the whole day before the show to see if any of them would walk by. And sure enough, we were on the same floor, and they walked by, and not to slight the other guys, but everybody seemed to be in a little bit of a rush and didn't really have time to sign an autograph or anything. But I swear to you, and this is how I very first met him, he walked down the hall and we called him and he stopped and he came right in the room, and we still have pictures of it. And he hung out all night, signed autographs, talked, made sure we had passes for the show. I mean, that's just the kind of guy he was. And I'm not just saying this because, you know, this is a tribute and that kind of thing, but that's why, you know, I was able to get close to someone like that, and we were, you know, up here at DHA because, you know, he just made himself available and very open. He was a very real person, and like I said, he will be greatly missed. The whole thing still just hasn't hit me yet. It's just too much to believe, and you know, he had been suffering for a long time. I think some of you folks may remember back in the Metal News about 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had asked people to send some cards of support, not only to Eric, but to KISS, because I know maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but I'm going to come out and say it. Things were not wonderful between Eric and KISS in the past year, and it may be something that a lot of people don't know, but I'm the biggest KISS fan of anyone, but I'm going to be honest with you, he was missed by a lot of people, and things were not on the best of terms between him and KISS over the past year. And Eric had a pretty good inkling that he was not going to be a member of KISS anymore, even if he had survived his health problems. And it was spurred on by the fact that they've already recorded another album with a drummer, and it was done completely while he was not in the band, while he was still with us. So with those things to remember, I mean, it's just, I feel that these are things that should be brought up. He loved being in the band, and the band was very important to him, and I think that kind of hurt a little bit too. Obviously, I know that the other members of KISS are devastated about this, and they are all flying in from the West Coast where they were working on the record to be at the funeral tomorrow. And Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley did come in during his surgery and stuff, but things did get a little weird towards the end. And the only reason why I'm saying that is because things aren't always as wonderful in the rock and roll world as they would be. And Eric really cherished the idea of being in KISS, but it wasn't without its ups and downs. And I think people kind of should know that now that this is all behind us. KISS is going to continue on. A lot of calls have come in this week about what KISS is doing. I mean, Kiss is a big operation. I mean, it's like a machine. They will continue on. They obviously will, feel something about this loss, but they've already pretty much decided on a new drummer, and they're going to continue on. Their new record is virtually almost done already, and Eric wasn't on it, and Eric wasn't on the song "God Gave Rock and Roll to You" too. He didn't play on that track, although he did appear in the video, so that was his last actual function with the band. But like I said, the reality of it is, and it really should be known, that if he did recover from all this, he more than likely wouldn't have been a member of the band anymore, because I guess they just feared recurring health problems. So like I said, I don't want to just keep rambling and hashing on about things, but he would be greatly missed, and he was a great guy. I mean, a great guy that you could just hang out with at any time, and we certainly have a lot of memories of him up here. And one of the things, too, that people should know is not only was he a great drummer, but Cheryl just played Beth a little while ago. He had a great voice, and he sang backup vocals live on every song. And he actually doubled a lot of the lead vocals, too. So he was very proud of his vocals, and he was also, he was remarkably humble. I mean, he was, every show, every time I would see Kiss, he'd come up and he'd be like, was it really good, or was this really good, or whatever. So we'll talk some more a little later on in the night, but some of the songs that I picked, Cheryl and I had talked earlier, I forgot to bring my copy of the Elder CD, which was the first album that Kiss ever recorded with Eric, but one of the tracks I remember him really being into, his favorite Kiss album is probably Creatures of the Night. That was his favorite Kiss album, and Saint and Sinner was a track from that album that he shared a time when he recorded that once with me, and he said how the ending of that song, the drum ride on the way out, he played it so hard his fingers almost bled. I remember him telling me, and he was really, really happy about his drum performance on that, so we got that one queued up, ready to go. So that one was one of his favorites, that's for sure. I remember him always talking, not only Creatures of the Night is definitely his favorite Kiss album, or was his favorite Kiss album, but that particular track I remember him liking a whole lot. And I was telling Cheryl, too, that Eric played bass on a couple Kiss tracks, too. And he was telling me that on Little Caesar, that whole song, which we heard earlier, him and Bruce Kulick recorded that whole song themselves. Bruce did all the guitar work, and Eric played bass and played drums and sang that one. And he was really, really, really proud of that song, because he had wanted to sing a lead vocal for so long with Kiss, because like I said, he sang lead vocals on every song in concert, or background vocals. He did lead vocals on Black Diamond. And then he kind of got that teaser to do Beth, the revocal of that, but that was kind of controversial because there was a lot of mixed reviews about that, because he did it, and he just wanted one song after 10 years of being in the band that he could just make his own and kind of get to do. And he was so happy, because so many times he had the opportunity, and he was supposed to do a song on a Kiss album, and he had written a lot of songs, but they never did it. And I'm really glad, at least, that we did get that one song from him before the tragedy happened. And I guess there's been a lot of conflicting rumors about what really happened, and why where his health went wrong and what actually happened. There seems to be so many different stories going on, and so many different people say different causes for what happened. Well, a few weeks back, when I told you folks to call in, to write in with some letters of support, what had happened was Eric overcame so many problems. He came in here, Cheryl remembers because it was during Cheryl's show, but after he had open heart surgery, I mean, he came in here like such a trooper about that. I mean, it was like nothing had happened, and he's like, I'm going to be fine, look at the scar, it's like no big deal. He had a button-down shirt showing off the scar, and I mean, it was just like he got over that so well. And then, of course, the bad news about the cancer. And the last time I spoke to him, I'll never forget this either. The last time I spoke to him was, I guess, close to 8 weeks ago. And we had been talking on the phone because he was undergoing chemotherapy for his cancer. And he was home. He had just come home from what he thought would be his second to last chemotherapy treatment. And he called me up, and we were talking, and as we were talking, his call waiting beeped, and he said, hold on, and we were on hold for a while, and he came back, and he was happier than I ever heard him in my life, because it was his doctor telling him that the cancer was in remission, and he didn't even need any more chemo. So here was a guy who got a great clean bill of health and overcame two major health problems, and really did well with it. And we joked about it, and he said, he goes, I'm going to be fine. He goes, no problem. And we joked about it, and to hear what happened afterwards was basically a brain hemorrhage or a brain aneurysm or whatever it may be. And whether they were all connected or not, it doesn't seem to be known at this point. But, he did go into a coma and was in a coma for 3 days and came out of it. And then it happened again. And, I had known that this was going on, although it was being kept very quiet because he was that kind of person. He didn't want to overly worry people. And it was kept very, very quiet. And then I was told of his death, I guess it was Monday, by Gary Corbett. Gary's the keyboard player with Kiss. He plays offstage keyboards with Kiss, and he has on the past few tours. And he was probably closer to Eric than anybody, even the other 3 band members in the band, Gary. And it also has hit everyone very hard. I spoke to Ace Frehley this past week, and I had the unfortunate duty of breaking the news to him, and he was absolutely crushed. Ace, of course, was a member of the band with Eric for about 2 years. They joined the band together when Eric joined in 1980. And they did their first tour together, and Eric was great friends with Ace even after Ace had left the band. A couple years ago, Eric went down and helped out Ace when he was auditioning drummers and guitar players and played in the studio, and Eric and Ace wrote a tune together, a Breakout. So a lot of people are going to miss this guy. They really are. And aside from all the fans, I mean, everybody who knows him, all the bands that had opened for Kiss over the years that he was in the band have all been calling in and have all expressed their condolences. Bands like Slaughter and Winger and all these bands that have opened, countless bands that have opened for Kiss while Eric was in the band, are really, really shaken up over this. And, Eric was the kind of guy, again, not to take away from the other members of Kiss, but if you were out on the road and opening up for Kiss and any of those 4 members you were going to hang with and have a good time, Eric was the guy. He was that kind of person. So that's why, I mean, it's really shaken up a lot of the rock community about this, and it certainly is terrible. What else do we have queued up here to go before I keep rambling and get myself more depressed?
Your second choice of the evening, All Hell's Breaking Loose.
Yeah, which is one of the tunes that he wrote music for. He was the chief writer on this tune, another one he was really proud of. I was saying to Cheryl earlier, something like this, I mean, he was the kind of guy who was so humble that he would never, he never felt he would never have felt he deserved something like this. So doing this and just playing the music and talking about him and, remembering him as he was, I think this probably is something that would make him more happy than anything, because, he was really happy with his music and playing it. And you hear from these tracks, I mean, aside from everything, he was a great drummer. He really was. And, no disrespect to Peter Criss, but Eric was in the band longer than Peter Criss was at this. He spent 11 years in the band. And I'll never forget, I'm glad I just remembered to mention this. I was at the very, very first show that Eric Carr ever did as a member of Kiss. And it was July 25th, 1980. I remember the date.
I believe you remember that date. I wouldn't even question you on that.
July 25th, 1980. It was the only show that Kiss played in the United States for the Unmasked tour. And they played at the old Palladium, which still is the Palladium, but it's a dance club now. But back then, the Palladium, they played there on July 25th, 1980. And they wanted to showcase and show off their new drummer, of course, in his Fox makeup back then. And it was the only show they did, because if you remember, something else that should be remembered, too, is when Eric Carr joined Kiss, Kiss was at, I guess you could say, somewhat of a recession in their career, so to speak. Kiss went from being the biggest band in the world in the mid and late 70s to, in the early 80s, really not doing too well in America. However, all over Europe and Japan, they were still huge. And when Eric joined the band in 1980, they weren't even strong enough to really do a tour of America behind Unmasked, which was an album he didn't play on. He made his album debut a year later. But they weren't even strong enough to really do a full tour of Europe at the time, and weren't popular enough in America. They had their fanatical following, but they really weren't an arena attraction again. And they only did one show at the Palladium, and Eric joined the band. And I remember Peter Criss always had a single bass drum, and kind of had a, not a small kit, but just that single bass drum. And the stage came out, and they lifted the curtain, and you saw the curtain over the drum set, which was the only thing covered, and the drum set was just huge. And the first couple songs, I'll admit that there was a lot of people who loved Peter Criss and were upset that he had left the band, and they were chanting, "Peter, Peter, Peter," and I swear to you, by 3-4 songs into that set, there was no one chanting Peter Criss, because he just overwhelmed the audience with just a powerhouse drummer, and he just brought a flair to some of the old songs that just really knocked people out, and he maintained it over the years, and he really became an instantly lovable kind of guy. I mean, it literally happened within 3 songs, and I'll never forget that. I went, and everyone was real curious to see who the new drummer in Kiss was. It was the first time there was ever a lineup change in the band, and he just came out, and I remember him telling me stories about him being so nervous that night that he was just pacing back and forth, and he had these, these black tights on, and he said he caught him on something, and he ripped him open, and he cut the side of his leg, and he played the whole set like bleeding down his leg, and he didn't realize that he cut himself because he was so nervous from the nerves. And that was the very first show that Eric did as a member of Kiss at the Palladium on July 25th, 1980, and from there on in, it was just a storybook type thing. Here's a guy from New York and no major recording experience or nothing like that, and he just won out the auditions. So many people came so close. He got called back. I think he remembered a great joke I remember hearing Eric say once is he said that they had a bunch of auditions to decide who the drummer was going to be, and he got called back about 5 times, and he said, not because I was good, just because I was hard of hearing that. He keep calling me back, Eric, Eric, Eric. But I remember him saying that, but he got called back, and I think it actually, the rumor goes that it was between him and Bobby Rondinelli, if anybody remembers him, who was the drummer in Rainbow. He almost got the job too, and Eric wanted out because he was also a great singer, aside from a great drummer. And I don't know, I could go on with stories forever here, and I guess we should play some more music because that's what he would want more than anything. And we got Under the Gun queued up from Animalize, which is just a brutally heavy song that he plays amazing drums on, some great double bass too, and he also co-wrote this song and wrote a lot of the music to it, so here it is.
A lot of people are calling up with what I've tried to avoid basically for most of the night because it's really difficult to deal with, but for funeral information, and the funeral for Eric is tomorrow at 11 o'clock. It is open to the public. It's in Middletown, New York, on Cottage Street at St. Joseph's Church. That's in Middletown, New York. It is tomorrow morning at 11 o'clock, and it will be open to the public.
Yeah, and as far as people calling up asking about directions, the best thing to do is really just get out a map, and Middletown is up off the New York Thruway. I was told exit 16, but don't quote me on that. Check a map from wherever you're coming from, and it is off the New York Thruway, Middletown. And as far as where Cottage Street is, I have a feeling that town is going to be pretty much swamped tomorrow. So
that's funny. When I talked to Gary Corbett on the phone, the keyboard player, he said, just head for where all the people are in Middletown, New York, and that'll be St. Joseph's Church. So
yeah, it's going to be
hard to find.
It's going to be really, really quite a scene, I would imagine. And one of the other things too that I want to say, and I really hope people take heed of this is after all a funeral, and I mean, not to slight anyone or anything, but please keep that in mind. There may be a lot of people there from other bands and obviously other members of KISS there and stuff, but everybody's going to be kind of in a down, bumming kind of mode, and we want to keep in mind throughout this whole thing that this is a funeral and this is something that should be conducted like one. I've actually heard from some people who are going there with the intent of trying to meet people and everything like that, and that's really not the best environment to be trying to do that. Don't really expect to be trying to do that. There is going to be security on hand, and it's going to be conducted in the most orderly fashion possible, but they have encouraged fans to go and pay their respects, even if you didn't know Eric or anyone in the band or anybody in the family. You're more than welcome to attend, because a lot of the focus, I mean, let's face it, even though he had been in the band 10, 11 years, a lot of the focus in KISS these days is always on Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley, and Eric kind of got overlooked. As a matter of fact, when we told some people that he was in the band longer than the original drummer, I mean, a lot of people are really shocked by that fact, and he was there since 1980, and for all intents and purposes, he was there up until last weekend as well. And we're just playing a lot of music and a lot of memories coming to mind as we sit here and pay tribute to Eric. And like we said earlier, I think that he would really like this. A lot of folks still calling in and expressing their sadness over this, and there's really nothing more that can be said. Also, a lot of people calling in asking about the status of KISS right now and wanting to know what's happening, and I guess, we do have to address that, as even though this is a tribute to him, we should, tell everybody what is happening. The new record, as I said earlier, is already recorded for the most part, still a little bit of work to be done, and at this point I think they're talking about a March or April release for the new Kiss record. It was recorded with a guy by the name of Eric Singer on drums. Eric played on Paul Stanley's club tour when he did that club tour a few years ago, and he was also the drummer in Badlands on the first album, and he played drums on God Gave Rock and Roll to You while Eric was in the hospital. They did that track for Bill and Ted's soundtrack, and Eric Singer played drums, so it looks very, very likely, although there's been no official statement, that Eric Singer will be the replacement in the band. And like I said, the new Kiss album right now is titled Revenge. Whether that changes or not, we shall see. I'm sure that there will be some sort of dedication or something on there to Eric. Something I just remembered too, Mark Slaughter of the band Slaughter, of course, who they opened for Kiss on the entire last tour. He was very, very close to Eric. He was more or less from a fan standpoint than anything. Mark Slaughter saw Kiss on the first tour with Eric Carr in the band when they played through his hometown of Las Vegas. And he was 14 years old on that first tour, and he went up and managed to hang out backstage and met Eric Carr and gave Eric a demo tape of his band. And Eric was, like he was with everybody, real cool to Mark Slaughter, at that time, who was a nobody, a 14-year-old kid hanging out backstage. And he took his demo, and a couple weeks later, he got a mail package with all comments about the demo from Eric, with a personal letter about the demo tape, thanking him for sending it in. And Mark Slaughter still has that letter and that tape and still saved it. And obviously, being Kiss fans that they are, it was a thrill for him to be able to tour, but he held a special, spot for Eric. And I do know that Slaughter's recording a new album right now in L.A., and they will be dedicating a song on their forthcoming album to Eric, too. I found that out this past week.
I wouldn't be surprised if that's why somebody like Mark Slaughter is one of the nicer, more down-to-earth people in rock and roll, and having someone like Eric Carr do that for him has probably kept him on the ground.
Exactly. Eric definitely set a good example for, any up-and-coming, rock stars that happen to run into him. It certainly set a good example for the future, because now, Mark will remember that and know how to treat people as his, popularity increases or decreases, whatever it may be, because, what you see going up, you see going down, too.
That's exactly right.
What do we have up next, Cheryl?
We have a request, actually.
Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell from Hot in the Shade.
That's it, 105.5 WDHA. As we remember Eric Carr, New Jersey's best rock. 105.5 WDHA, Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell, WDHA. Actually, I could put this phone call on the air. I could put this person on the air. Talk a little bit, Eddie, and I'll...
Well, that was Somewhere Between Heaven and Hell from Hot in the Shade by Kiss, of course, as we continue to pay tribute to Eric Carr from Kiss. And a very, very sad evening as Cheryl fiddles with the phone. The track we have queued up
I think I hung up on him.
Oh, boy.
Muncie, you could call me back.
We were going to try to get some insight from Muncie Ricci, who was the person who brought Eric up here the very last time he was here, and he worked for Mercury Records for a while and got to be knew Eric very well and worked with him very much. So see if we get a few words from him too. But the track that's queued up now, I guess we'll come back and wrap up one last time after we do this track. Are we on?
I think I've got a month. Are you there? It's a little hard to do this with... Oh, there he is. There he is.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi, Muncie.
Hi, Cheryl.
I hope you don't mind that I just put you right on the air.
Oh, that's all right. I guess I can go back. Hey, I'm putting on my radio voice.
Put on your radio voice.
How you doing, Munce?
How's it going, Ed?
It's going, This is, I was just telling Cheryl earlier, it's, it hasn't even hit me through the week. I saw you earlier in the week. It hasn't even hit me, and it's just... pretty heavy sitting here listening to everything and some of the interviews that we've had back. I guess all total, Eric was up here 3 times, twice with me, and then the last time that you were up, he was up with Cheryl and Muncie. So we thank Muncie for bringing him by those times, because a lot of memories from that too. And Muncie used to work for Mercury Records, and Muncie, what kind of memories do you have of the whole thing? I mean, I'm sure he was definitely one of the easier people to deal with, huh?
Well, yeah, it was pretty good, because when I first started with the company and Hot in the Shade was released, I wanted Gene and Paul to do a lot of radio stuff for me, and management just said, hey, get Eric to do it. He's right here in New York, so it'd be a lot easier for you guys. And this is about a little over 2 years ago, and we developed a real good relationship, and it just turned out that every time we went out to do something, it turned into a big party. And every time we went somewhere, it was like, hey, let's go to a club. Hey, let's go have a drink. Hey, this is happening. Let's go check these guys out. So, I mean, Eric was a real party animal. And and I mean, every time we went out to do something, go anywhere here or go anywhere there, it was never, there was not really hordes and hordes of people. We just go out and we drink, we'd go out to eat, and we'd always have a good time. And I mean, it just, the news hit me on Monday morning when Cheryl called me. And I still can't believe that he's not here with us anymore.
No, it doesn't seem that way. I mean, I was saying to Cheryl earlier, it's really been setting in now, talking to a lot of folks on the phone, and being a part of this tribute and stuff. It's just it's just very, it's very, very hard to believe. It really is. I still expect that I'm gonna get a wacky phone message on my machine from him. He used to call me Trunkster instead of Trickster. When Trickster came out, he actually started a band called Trunkster. So I remember him always saying that, and I'm just waiting to hear from him say, hey, Trunkster. So it's very heavy. It's a very, very sad thing, and we're going to keep remembering him here at DHA, because all week long we've been playing music and stuff like that, and I'm sure that's going to go on for quite a while. A lot of folks have been calling up all week requesting sets of music, and we've been doing it and paying it the attention it really deserves. So we're glad to be able to to do this. I mean, under horrible circumstances, but we're glad that we feel we're giving it the attention that it deserves, and we'll continue to do so.
That's real good too, because I know Eric would definitely appreciate that. He was definitely the kind of person. He wasn't really. I mean, yeah, he was a rock star, and he had all the glitter and everything else, but when it just came down to it, he was just an average guy.
Yeah, and he would genuinely be excited about something like this, don't you think, Mons?
Absolutely, because I remember on other occasions too, when we were out of state, when they were on the road last year, and I went out of town to see some of the shows. I'd be, Eric, come on, let's go do this interview, let's go do this, let's go do that. And, we'd be driving up there in my car, and you'd hear kids on the radio, and be like, hey, these guys are playing our stuff, cool. And he used to get all excited, and, yeah, he was definitely very energetic, and he loved to hear it. And so, I don't know, I'm just kind of upset because it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and I know Middletown's 2 hours away, and it's going to be a zoo up there tomorrow. Yeah,
it really is, and so a lot of folks I've been talking to too, who are close to him or have known him, I mean, you should really do what you want and handle it how you want. It is open to the public, and there's going to be a lot of families, there's going to be a lot of friends, and there's going to be a lot of fans too. And some folks prefer to remember him as they remember him, and want to just remember him for his music, and if they had met him or if they had gotten an autograph or a picture or whatever. So people are going up. Some people are saying they prefer to just listen to the music and remember Eric for the videos and the music and everything that he had brought to the band. So he was an everyday guy in a super group.
Yeah,
it really was. And he was like I had said earlier, I don't know if you heard, Muntz, but he was a guy who overnight went from repairing gas ranges to being in one of the biggest bands in the world, and continued to conduct himself like he was still repairing gas ranges.
Yeah, it was pretty ironic too. Whenever he used to tell the story, he was the last person to audition for the band. He was like, yeah, sure, I'll audition. And he was like a day late, the last guy to audition, and he wound up becoming a legend.
Yeah, well, he certainly did. We got a track queued up here from Creatures of the Night, which I guess he probably told you a lot of times too. This was his favorite album, right, Mons?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this was his favorite, and huge, monstrous drum sound on this record too. He was really, really proud of this record, and this track in particular, I Still Love You. A fact a lot of people don't know about this is not only does Eric play drums on it, but he also played bass on this one too. So a lot of times you might notice in some of the later Kiss albums it used to say, guitar, Bruce Kulick or whatever, and it just used to list the lineup because a lot of times, I was telling Cheryl that for Little Caesar, that whole song Eric told me was recorded with just him and Bruce, and he played bass and sang, and handled the drums, and Bruce played the guitar. So, Eric did a lot more. I was talking about his vocals, and he's even played some bass, and I think he even played guitar on a couple tracks here and there, some rhythm guitar. So, definitely a multi-talented guy, and like I said, he's going to be missed. It's still hard to believe.
Yeah, it is, but, things happen, and it happened for the misfortune instead of happening for the positive. It just happened for the negative, and I know a lot of people at Mercury are pretty upset, and a lot of fans are upset, and we're all upset, and just one of those things that happened, and I guess, we'll just have to remember him the best we can, and that's just from his personality and his music, and I guess, what else is there to say?
That was well put. It is, I do have to take care of this little bit of business. You are listening to WDHA-FM Dover, New Jersey's best rock. It's the top of the hour months, and we'll go into, I'm going to make a programming call here. I think because we're having such a great response, we can go a little longer with the tribute.
Yeah, I'm going to hang out, for a little while, and like I said, even when the tribute ends, the phones are lighting up. I know they're probably busy too, and if you guys want to take your time, I'll do my best to get to as many calls as we can at 201-480-1055 and talk to you guys, answer any questions, or share any thoughts you might have. So we'll be here for a little while longer.
1055 WDHA.
1055 WDHA, New Jersey's best rock. That is Kiss from Creatures of the Night and I Still Love You, a track that I mentioned earlier that Eric also played bass on as well as drums. And, great stuff right there. Still the phones are ringing. I'm sure that if you're trying to get through, it's been busy. So we will do our best to get to them as much as possible and take some calls. I guess we're pretty much winding this down here, huh, Cheryl?
Yeah, we are winding it down. I know. We have been taking a lot of calls. We switched sides here for a second.
Your headphones are so low.
I guess your head's just a little bit larger than mine.
Probably a lot. No time to pull punches here.
Okay. It's really, I'm trying to think of amusing things to keep me up and ready to finish my show till 5 o'clock in the morning. And you had mentioned that the last time you spoke to Eric, and I was trying to remember the last time that I did, and a couple of people called in earlier that had come out here, the last interview that he did, and he had that whole thing about my purple shorts going, and the last time I saw Eric, I was wearing black shorts, and the last thing he did as he walked out the door, I saw him in a club, was pull my shorts and say, will you wear some long pants?
I'll tell you, that's a real testament to his popularity, too, especially around here, was the fact that I remember the very, very first time he came to DHA, and it was in our old studio up on Route 10, and he came up, and, I had just been talking to him, and it was we were hanging out a lot, and I talked to him, and I said, you should drop by the radio show with me sometime, and he was like, well, I was waiting for you to ask that. So he was there on the drop of a dime, and he guest DJ'd that night with me the whole time. I actually have the tape of it. It was in 1989. It was just when Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits had come out. And I remember he came in the room with me, in the studio with me before we went on the air, and he hung out for the whole shift. And about an hour into the shift, I got a phone call from the Dover Police Department. And they called on our secret number, and they said, hey, you have a mob scene outside of your studio. You have cars all over Route 10. You've got people all over your front lawn. You've got a truck on your front lawn. And they said, your house looks like it's being besieged. The old studio looked like a house. And he was like, it looks like your studio is being besieged by people up there. Is everything okay? And I kind of pulled the blind aside and saw a couple hundred people outside and all over Route 10. Traffic was stopped. People had parked on either side of Route 10. And I went back and I said, are the people behaving themselves? And the cop said, yeah, for the most part, they just seem like they're hanging out. A lot of them have Kiss shirts on. And I was like, that's cool. I said, let them stay out there. And it was must have been 20 below that night. It seemed like it was so cold, I remember. And Eric and I left the building at 1 o'clock. And he stood out there in freezing cold and signed every single autograph that needed to be signed and took every picture that needed to be taken. And, I mean, it was really cold and it was really late. And, it was great. And I remember Vince Gerard came in afterwards and he had to park like three doors down. And he's like, what's going on up here? Vince was like rattled by the whole thing. And even Vince the other day when we had heard the unfortunate news, he was saying that, he said it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. He said it really couldn't. I mean, Vince wasn't the hugest Kiss fan at all, but he certainly had a lot of respect. And that was the kind of thing that Eric brought to everybody too. So I thought of a good song. I don't know if we want to do more after this, but I thought of a good song to wrap up with. Not only is it one of my favorite tunes, but A Million to One. That's what the guy was, as goofy as that may sound, and I thought that would be a kind of cool thing to go out with on Lick It Up. But actually, what do you want to do? You want to do some more? Or?
Well, why don't we go down to the bottom of the hour, down to 3:30.
So we'll do A Million to One, and then we'll come back.
We'll come back.
Okay. 105.5 WDHA.
5.5 WDHA. A Million to One from the Lick It Up album. CD. I still say album. I'll always say album.
I love that tune. One of my all-time favorite Kiss songs right there. That one cranks. I like that one a lot. And as always, Eric with some great drums on that too. Always, what I always like to listen to with some of the Kiss songs too is some of the stuff as they fade. You always kind of wish that they would have hung in there longer because there was always some cool little drum stuff that Eric used to always do at the end that I used to always like listening to. And he brought so much to the old tunes, too. I really, really hope that Kiss, I know they have tons of live recordings over the years with him in them. I know they recorded the last couple tours, and they were compiling material for a live record, and I really, really hope that Kiss does release a live record of just, his stuff, of just him in the band as a live recording. I really hope they do that. I don't know if they will, but I think that would be great because for those folks who maybe never saw Eric Carr and Kiss, just some of the stuff that he did, like just listening to like Detroit Rock City or some of the old stuff he did, it's great to hear. Like he brought a definitely a flair and a punch to those songs that was kind of put his own little stamp on them. I know of all the old Kiss songs that he didn't have anything to do with. I know that his two favorite, I remember him always telling me he enjoyed playing, were Detroit Rock City and Love Gun. He used to always enjoy playing those two, but especially Detroit Rock City. And I remember he used to always do, a great job with that live, just always added a little extra kick. So I hope that they do something like that. There's the home video. There's a home video out that's been out for a number of years now called Animalized Live from the Animalized tour. And that's a great video, too, because it's a whole concert from the Animalized tour, and there's a lot of Eric in that, and it really shows off some of his drumming and kind of, solos in there and stuff like that. So I wish we had some live material I know there's tons of it out on bootleg, but I wish there was stuff that we could legally play here on the radio that could show off some of the live stuff and some of the stuff he did on some of the old tunes. But I'm sure that will come out eventually. I'm sure that there's going to be some sort of, tribute record. Hopefully there will be, or a live record or something like that will show off a little bit of his live playing, because that's where he was really, even more of a monster as far as playing. So I don't know, what do we got next, Cheryl? This song, speaking of monster playing, this song I'm Alive, it's just unbelievable. He just cranks this one out. I remember seeing them, where did I see him play this? I think I saw him play this live in Florida or something on tour. It's the only time they had done the song live, and it's just powerhouse stuff. It's just really fast and heavy. It's, Eric always got a kick out of the thrash metal drummers, because he always felt that they were just like, he was boggled by how fast they played and how fast their bass drums were, and he always liked listening to like drummers like Lars Ulrich or Charlie Benante and stuff like that. And I guess this was his little shot at trying to, it's not actually a thrash song, but it's one of the heavier things, one of the faster beats he plays, and so I guess this was his little shot at that.
Eddie, you truly are a walking Kiss encyclopedia.
I'm glad all these years of Kiss fanaticism has paid off. Really.
And this one's from Asylum. I'm Alive, 105.5 WDHA. I'm Alive. From Asylum. Eddie Trunk and Cheryl Richard.
Yep, we're here.
Kind of wrapping up
Yeah, a lot of phone calls, a lot of folks calling in and thanking us for doing this, and we're happy to be able to have the privilege to do it here at DHA. A lot of folks are saying that they haven't felt that this has gotten the attention that it's deserved, and a lot of other stations or media outlets haven't really given it the attention it deserves. So we're thankful that we have a vehicle like DHA that we're able to do this with. And I'll tell you something, I kind of feel that too. A lot of people, a lot of media, MTV and some other radio stations or perhaps some magazines haven't and maybe won't give this the attention it deserves because, Eric wasn't an original member of the band or whatever nonsense they may think up. But if you guys really appreciate what we're doing, I would suggest that you get in touch with those people and write letters and tell them how much that this person meant to you and how much, of an impact in music this person actually did make and how much you guys cared about him, and keep the spirit of Eric Carr alive for a while. I mean, let's I don't think there'd be anything wrong with having a tribute everywhere else, or MTV doing something on their Headbangers Ball or something, like a half hour of Kiss videos that he was in. It's up to us to let people know that this should be done and that we do care, because if we just go away and listen to this and say, well, it was real great while we had it, then it's going to be forgotten about relatively quickly and everything moves on. But we don't want to harp on his death, obviously, but we want to harp on some of the good, some of the people that he touched and what a great person he was and a great musician. And Kiss as a band has traditionally never gotten the credit or respect that they deserve. They never have, and it just doesn't seem like they ever will. 20 years on, and people are still waiting for him to pack up and go away. But Eric Carr in particular, I think it would be a great idea if people who appreciate what we're doing urge others to do the same thing and kind of keep his spirit alive for a while.
Right, because as we mentioned all night, that even though Eric had been here several times, this is not the only place. He went out, when Muncie called in, he mentioned he'd take him to stations in Podunk, Iowa. He would go anywhere, all the way to MTV. So all those people, from the bottom to the top.
Absolutely. This is a worldwide thing. This isn't just even confined to the United States. I mean, Eric was, Kiss and Eric were all over the world, Japan, Australia, Europe, you name it. So there are people all over the world that are saddened and touched by this death, like, any rock band would be. But, in this situation, we're talking about Eric. And, just knowing the kind of fans Kiss fans are, because I am one myself, I know the kind of feeling that's going on all around the world, and I think we're going to be seeing and hearing a lot about this, and hopefully we'll get some, keep the memories alive for a while is really what I'm trying to say, because I'll say it again, a great person. He was a great friend to have and a great musician, and it's really, really still unbelievable to think that he's gone and he's not with us anymore. But we've got a lot of great music to remember and some great videos, and hopefully more stuff will come out that we can remember this by. Everybody who's going, to the funeral services tomorrow, please, pay your respects in the proper way, and have some courtesy for the family and stuff like that will be there on hand, because it is a funeral after all, and that's to be remembered. One last time, it's St. Joseph's Church.
St. Joseph's Church in Middletown, New York, on Cottage Street. It's at 11 a.m.
tomorrow. And I guess that's the story. Eric Carr was, it'll be, Eric Carr born Paul Caravello, actually. That's another interesting story we could go on forever about. But
I was going to ask you that. His name can possibly really be Eric Carr.
No, I don't know if he had it legally changed, but his real legal name is Paul Caravello. And when he came into the band, Ace Frehley was in the band, whose first name is Paul. And there was a Paul Stanley whose real name wasn't Paul Stanley, but was legally changed to Paul Stanley. So he actually came into a band of two other Pauls, and they gave him the name Eric. I guess he told me Gene came up with it and just said, "You are now Eric." And obviously Caravello being his last name was just shortened up to Eric Carr. So that's the deal there. But it's just, we could go on forever with stories and stuff like that, and like I said, I'll be happy to speak to anybody on the phone while Cheryl keeps the rock and roll going here. And anybody who wants to write letters or get in touch with us here at DHA, you can always do so. And the address to get to Cheryl or me, you can just address it to either one of us, and it's 55 Horse Hill Road, Cedar Knolls, New Jersey, 07927. And, you know, whatever you want to say, if you want to write, if you want to talk, whatever you want to do, you know, just to keep the memories alive, we're here for it. So
that would be great. Before we wrap up, I just want to thank a few people. And first and foremost, I want to thank everybody who called in tonight, because there's a lot of great people out there, a lot of KISS fans, a lot of DHA fans, and it's good to hear from them. I want to thank Vic Porcelli, the program director here at DHA, for letting me bring you in and letting me do this special tonight.
Absolutely.
I'd like to thank Muncie Ritchie from Ritchie Promotions, who was formerly with Mercury Records, who was a good friend to Eric and brought him out here on that last Memorial Day weekend, the last interview that Eric ever did. And I'd like to thank Barbara Miskoff, who was on before me, who stayed on for a half an hour while I regained my senses after putting the interview clips tonight together. And Eddie, I'd like to thank you for coming out and being great help and being a good friend.
It's like I said, it's not an honor because it's not a happy thing that we're doing, but it's like it was an honor to know Eric and to have been such a friend of a band that I, you know, care so much about and was such a fan of. And, you know, one last thing I'll never forget, he was always encouraging too. The biggest probably memory of my life was one of the biggest dreams of my life was I had the chance to introduce KISS on stage when they played the Meadowlands the last time. And I'll never forget walking out, and I was a nervous wreck. And there's 18,000 people, and KISS, I had introduced them literally 5 minutes before they went on, and Eric was backstage behind that curtain, hitting me with the drumstick, telling me all the horrors that were going to happen to me when I went out there. And he's like, those 18,000 aren't there to see KISS, man. They're out to go see you. Go knock them dead. And it was just, you know, just those kind of memories. Those are things that'll never go away. So if you want to talk some more, we'll be here for a little while longer, and we're going to wrap it up now. Okay.
Well, a good friend of mine told me when I told her what happened to send him lots of white light and good thoughts, and that's all we all can do at this point.
And we got to call him E-Rock too, because that was the name, that was one of his favorite nicknames. So it's for E-Rock.
It's for E-Rock. We love you, and you'll be missed.